keep seeing this phrase thrown around in the LEGO community lately, display slop. It showed up a few weeks ago with the K-pop Demon Hunters announcements. It's been floating around all of the recent Pokemon releases, and it's even been seen showing up next to some of the 2027 LEGO Star Wars leaks. I'm not going to touch on those leaks specifically. I'm not a huge fan of leaks. I think it ruins the fun. But I do think that the concept behind this outrage is something that's worth talking about. The complaint broadly is that LEGO is primarily releasing large display-oriented sets targeted at adults and collectors, and that's arguably in direct opposition to the company's roots of producing small, imaginative sets built for kids to actually play with before licensing turned that model on its head. LEGO exists in two spaces simultaneously and has for probably the last 20 years. The first is the imaginative play space, with structure, versatility, and cool factor at the center of its vision. We see this with the large brick boxes full of just fun parts. We see this in alternate build ideas that used to be at the backs of instruction manuals. We see this in lots of the original themes. And then there's the other space, which is effectively statues. Sets that look nice on a shelf, cost many hundreds of dollars, and often come with a black base, a black box, and a display plaque. I can only show you these 3 droid sets that I have because, well, frankly, I can't afford any of the bigger ones. Exactly! Because LEGO's current lineup is overpriced, oversized, and built to sit on a shelf, which is a real shift from the toy company that LEGO used to be. Just because LEGO has leaned hard into their display/collector market since they rolled out Adults Welcome in 2020 doesn't mean that they've abandoned their roots. They still have plenty of sets with real play value, maybe even more than before. Take a look at the highest profile sets that have come out over the last year. There's a $1,000 Death Slice, there's a $650 Pokemon display, even first-party sets like Ninjago have sets that are crazy expensive and come with the black base. I don't know if that's really what people mean when they say display slop. I feel like UCS sets have been around for a while. They're not new enough to trigger a new phenomenon of slang. Then what is display slop? Display slop is a fan-coined slang term that gained traction in the early half of 2026. The earliest example I found on social media is a YouTube video essay, The LEGO Display Slop Situation, by the channel Liquid Sludge, published on April 10th, 2026. When he used the term to describe how LEGO's output has gotten far more display-oriented in recent years, with even remakes of playsets being made for display. Notably, he's careful, not necessarily saying how much of this display slop is a bad or good thing, just letting this increasing margin of sets be known. The term is spread across TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Threads, X, Twitter, whatever we're calling it these days. It also appeared in r/LEGO Circle Jerk, the satirical LEGO subreddit, where slop is used to poke fun at any number of aspects of LEGO's output. Importantly, it seems like the community distinguishes between respectful and premium display options, aka the UCS line, and slop. Slop targets what critics see as low-effort, formulaic display filler, brick-built busts, the ever-expanding helmet collection, logo sets, oversized character figures, and remade playsets stripped of play features to become shelf pieces for adults and collectors. The critique overlaps with a longer-running complaint that black box 18+ adults welcome sets have monopolized shelf space once occupied by colorful, affordable kids sets. And I don't really disagree that the LEGO space is starting to feel more and more like that. Take Shrek, for example. The very first LEGO Shrek set in the history of the brand, $130, 18+ display statue. The brick heads are $25, and they're just collectible and displayable. There is no $30 Shrek Swamp playset with Shrek and Donkey minifigures and a buildable outhouse. That's the set every kid would want, and it doesn't exist. LEGO's first instinct with a brand new IP wasn't, how do we get this into kids' hands? It was, how do we get this onto adults' shelves? Textbook display slop. Like Pokemon, more Shrek is coming, but opening move was an 18+ statue. And speaking of playsets, I have another issue with the direction that LEGO's taken, and that's the death of the weird little side build. You know, the completely undisplayable little play features that we haven't seen since we were kids. The most articulate version of the Lego abandoned playsets argument was laid out on the Brick Blogger, the problem with Lego sets for adults. Most of the Lego sets in the adult line are very expensive, they are meant for display with no play features, and they take up shelf space from sets that are more affordable and more appropriate for younger builders. The author describes the physical retail shift. Walking down the Lego aisle at my local Walmart or Target is now much different than a decade ago. Instead of the colorful, smaller sets, now I see a lot of big black boxes with display sets meant for older builders. Oh, perfect. You want to talk about play? What about a set that I actually surprisingly really like? The Smart Darth Vader's TIE Advance. I'm sorry, you like the $70 Smart Slop set with the broken play features and the giant gaping hole in the back? I thought we all agreed that Smart Play sucks. Smart Play has been poorly received, no question. But I went and I built the thing, and honestly, I think it's fun. And I think it's interesting that in the same breath, people are dogging on Smart Play and also mourning that weird little playset side build, when I think that that kind of thing still exists in the form of Smart Play. Like everyone, I was very skeptical when Smart Play was announced, particularly in regards to the bricks features themselves, but in hand, I actually buy into the hype a little. But dude, it sounds so bad. All the sound effects are tinny, inaccurate garbo. I don't know, I think they're done a little disservice through the recording. In hand, they're really not that bad. And the play features are fun. The play features don't even work the way they're supposed to in battle. Let's be honest, most people aren't gonna buy two. In terms of the set though, I really like the way that it's built and tiled. Well, what about the giant smart hole in the back? I think the issue is actually mostly just in the gap at the back of the cockpit, because I think if you recolored a bunch of these pieces in gray and maybe tiled it off, I think it's actually dimensioned pretty well. I did a live stream where I compared modifying this set to cover up the smart hole versus adding Smart Play to the 2009 version, and covering up the back here actually made it feel too thick and chunky. So I think if you just clean this up, I think it would look fine. I like the scale of this one compared to the other TIE fighters that have been released recently. I think it's a pretty awesome upgrade over the older ones. How can you say that when it's so much smaller than the 2009 version? Well, for sure it's smaller, but I don't know, I think that it scales to itself better than the 2009 version. And on top of everything that LEGO actually cares about me liking, there's this. The set comes with this weird little octagonal plate that has a spinning chair for a rebel trooper to shoot studs or tiles off at the Vader TIE fighter. It's very 90s, early 2000s core. This is the kind of thing that I'm talking about, because you couldn't display this competently if you tried. It would look so out of place next to a UCS set, it barely seems to be in the same design language as the sleek, tiled off set that it comes with. This is exclusively for play, and reminds me of, I don't know, a battle pack build or something. Sure, but that's just one aspect of a $70 price tag. That's not the same as a $10 playset a kid pulls off a shelf on an impulse. 22% of the Star Wars catalog so far in 2026 is Smart Play. Then the $70 set is the cheapest one you can get a smart brick in. That's rough. That's very fair, I'll get to the price in a bit, but I want to wrap up the play question first, because that's the specific complaint, right? LEGO doesn't make good play sets anymore. But I showed the Smart Play function to my coworkers, who obviously are not kids, but also aren't AFOLs. And unprompted, several of them said something like, if I was a kid, I would think this is just the coolest thing, I would play with this constantly. Anecdotal, and it cuts both ways. There's plenty of anecdotal reporting from actual parents saying that their kids didn't engage with Smart Play features nearly as much as LEGO's marketing hopes. They're perfectly capable of making swoosh noises with their mouths, just like we did when we were kids. And things like limited replay value and short battery life mean that kids are putting down these sets and not picking them back up again. Maybe, but I appreciate that LEGO is at least trying to make something cool, as much as any adult can speculate about kids' entertainment. The forums we occupy are, by nature of them, going to skew adult and skeptical. They're not necessarily representative of the actual child end users who might respond differently. This feels like the modern innovation for real play, and is on the opposite end of the spectrum, at least, from display slop. Okay, let's go to price then, because that's my biggest objection. LEGO Star Wars cost per piece has risen year over year, and the Smart Play sets in particular push that cost even higher. The set has 473 pieces, that's nearly a 15-cent price per piece. If we go by a very rough, normal price per piece of 10 cents per piece, this is worth $47. which means they're saying that the Smart Brick and the Smart Minifigure are worth $23? That's crazy. If the tech was so expensive to develop and produce, then they just shouldn't have done it. Brickset's own detailed assessment says on the launch pricing, we all understand that LEGO Star Wars sets are often expensive. So adding the cost of Smart Play technology on top yields exceptionally expensive sets. I have major concerns about the value. They are not easily accessible when the cheapest set available at launch costs £59.99, $69.99, or €69.99. $70 is just not pocket money kid pricing. Functionally, Smart Play sets are still bought by adults. Except LEGO just announced Smart compatible Pokemon sets. They're small, they're pretty inexpensive, especially comparatively, and they're explicitly play first, not display first. The cheapest Pokemon set with an actual Smart Brick in it is still $70, and it has fewer pieces than the TIE Fighter. That is not a good look when Star Wars is somehow the better deal. But on the flip side, there's also a $15 Jigglypuff set. There's a $20 set, a $30 set, and so on up the price ladder. So the Smart Play tax seems to be a Star Wars problem, not a system problem. And either way, this is play. It is on the opposite end of the spectrum from display slop, and yet people are calling it slop too. Okay, but you're digressing. What does Smart Play have to do with display slop? Well, because the Venn diagram of people saying LEGO only makes display slop and Smart Play sets are ugly and overpriced is dang near a circle. But fine, you want to talk about display slop? Specifically, let's talk about it. Because LEGO is releasing a lot of stuff recently, and honestly, the more that I look at these sets, the less sure I am that display slop means anything coherent. What do you mean? Okay, let's start with an easy one. Pokemon Rayquaza, 1,083 pieces, $130, aimed at adults, perched on top of a brick-built sky pillar with clouds. Comes with a Zinnia minifigure. It is a statue. It's gorgeous, and I want it, but it is a statue. No Smart Brick, no play features. Price per piece isn't great, but isn't terrible either. It just sits on your shelf and looks cool, right next to the $110 Arcanine, the $70 Munchlax, and coming in October, a 2,300 piece Pokeball set for $300. All adult display. That's what you'd call display slop, right? Yeah, by every definition. That's exactly what people are talking about. But not everything fits that cleanly. Look at the Ninjago Legends line. The Twin Titan mechs at $140, Battle at the Dragon's Blade for $100, Ultra Dragon Battle for $200. Display slop, next question. Is it though? Because last year's Ninjago Legends set, the Guardian Dragon and Fire Knight mech were 14 plus, and 2 minifigures, 1 minifigure respectively, pretty much permanently posed on a round black base. Very clearly, display piece for older fans. These new ones are aimed younger. They've got multiple minifigures. They've got posable mechs and little dragons. The Dragon's Blade set has this little mech that docks onto the base, but you can pull him off and play with him separately. These are mechs and dragons. Kids play with mechs and dragons. Kids play with mechs and dragons that cost $30. These cost $100 to $200 and come on black display bases with intricate detailing. The Dragon's Blade has a display base shaped like a skull holding a katana. That's not really a toy as much as it's a shelf piece that happens to have some mechs tucked into it. But the mechs are there, and they do come off the base. Does the black base make it display slop even if it has play features? Yes, because the display base is the primary design intent. These mechs are secondary. If LEGO wanted those to be playsets, they'd sell the mechs for $10 each without the display stand like they've already been doing. Or is LEGO trying to make sets that do both, play and display? The question is whether play and display is a real category or whether it's just display slop wearing a play features hat. I think it's the hat thing. Right, cool. But let me throw one more at you because this is the one that really broke my brain. The Marvel Epic Battle Sets. Spider-Man vs. Sandman, $25, 201 pieces. Hulkbuster versus the Hulk, $50, 413 pieces. Have you seen these? Yeah, they're display slop. Are they? Because, okay, look at this. Look at the Spider-Man vs. the Sandman set. It's got a built-up diorama base. It's got a nameplate. If you saw this on the shelf, you're thinking, that's a little display piece. It looks like display slop. It displays like display slop. So it's display slop. But it's $25 and ages 9 plus. Is a $25 set aimed at 9-year-olds display slop just because it comes with a nameplate and looks good on a shelf? Because if it is, then aren't we just saying that any LEGO set that looks good is display slop? Okay, sure. So price matters. Display slop started as a specific complaint leveled at a real observation about a real trend. And then it got applied to everything that people don't like until it stopped meaning anything. I could point at Shrek and say, yeah, that's exactly it. But the term is expanded to cover Ninjago sets and $25 Marvel dioramas and K-pop Demon Hunter builds aimed at 9-year-olds. And at that point, you're not just criticizing a product strategy, you're mad that LEGO sets look nice? And as Liquid Sludge said in his video, LEGO sets have always had a quality of displayability from the early years, so... Okay, but the underlying complaint still stands. LEGO's opening move on new licenses skews adult, skews display, skews expensive. Shrek's first set is a $130 statue. Pokemon's non-smart line is all pretty much display. The first priority is the collector's shelf, not the kid's bedroom floor. That's true, and that's just because the adult collector market is more profitable and LEGO is a business. So what do we actually disagree on? I think we disagree on whether or not play exists. Smart Play is a play line, whether or not the community likes it. Ninjago Dragons Rising is full of affordable play sets, and the $10 Star Wars speeder bike, that's the cheapest Star Wars set since 2006. It's not the loudest thing in the room right now. And I think that the reason they're not the loudest thing in the room is because there just aren't enough of them. The affordable playsets are the exception now, not the default. And this doesn't help the actual 8-year-old whose parent is standing in Target looking at a wall of $100+ black boxes. And that's the thing that I think I keep circling back to. I mean, the display slop trend is definitely a thing, and people are really feeling the pricing concerns. But the term itself has gotten so broad that it covers everything from Shrek statues to 9+ K-pop Demon Hunters toys. And when a word means everything, it means nothing. The complaint that there's too many expensive adult sets and not enough affordable play sets is one that I share, but I want to leave you with two things. The first is this: LEGO's catalog is just bigger now. There are more sets releasing every year than there ever have been, across more themes at more price points for more audiences. And yes, a lot of those are display oriented, and it can feel really silly when another $130 statue drops for a theme you don't care about, but somebody cares about it. Somebody saw the Pokemon Rayquaza statue and lost their mind. Somebody saw that Boba Fett buildable figure and ran to clear a space for it. Somebody is genuinely thrilled about the K-pop Demon Hunters sets, so your display slop could be someone else's grail. So just have a little grace for that. The second thing is that it feels kind of silly to me to say there's only display, no play, and then get mad when Smart Play tries to be play. It's certainly not perfect. The rollout has been poor, the pricing has been rough, the battery life is a huge limiting factor, but Smart Play is, in the name, play. You can criticize the execution, and you should, but you can't pretend that the attempt doesn't exist. So yeah, display slop is a thing, prices are high, and the LEGO community is always gonna go back and forth about something. So please, let me know your thoughts in the comments below the video. What's your favorite display slop set? Have you actually played with Smart Play in hand? Please consider subscribing, checking me out on all the social medias, and until next time, thank you for watching.